Welcome to the solution video for the bulk file renaming challenge. Let's go right over to Visual Studio and we're going to create a new console application. All right, we'll call this the bulk renaming console and the bulk renaming app or challenge app. So bulk renaming challenge app and the bulk renaming console is a project name. We'll hit create. And the goal here seems very straightforward, but at the same time it's going to be a little tricky, I think. So let's start off with our files. So I extracted the zip file contents. Now, if you didn't get the zip file yet, go ahead and go to the challenge page and download that zip file and extract it. You're going to get these four things. You're going to get the 2 ping files and 2 folders. We're going to start first the primary challenge files, and here's our files. Now we're going to rename each one of these to have standard casing, which means the first letter of every word gets capitalized, everything else gets lowercased, and we're going to replace any instance where it says Acme, whatever casing it is. So Acme by Acme, there's 2 of them there. That's unique or something to watch out for. But we'll replace every instance of Acme with Timco. Now, the one tricky one, like I pointed out, is Pacmen. That's ACME is in the middle of Pacmen. So be careful not to replace that. So we're going to have Timco bonus file and Timco by Timco and first test file for Timco and so on. And these will all be standard casing except for, of course, the Timco, the capital C. But besides that, everything else is going to be standard casing. So that's our goal, what we're going to do. So let's come down here, and the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to copy, before I go, I'm going to copy this URL, or this file path. And let's first start by loading those files. So I'm going to add a using statement up here, using system.io. And I know I'm going to need that. And I'm going to say this is the primary challenge. So var files equals directory dot enumerate files, and we're going to say the @ symbol so we can have our file path like so and not have to escape these backslashes. So that's a list of all my files. So directory.enumerate files gives us a list of, or an IEnumerable of string. And those strings are the full path. So it would be d:/demo/challenge/primary challenge files / acme bonus file.txt. That's one name. That's all one name. Okay? So that's what we're going to get, a list of those. Now what we need to do is loop through all of our files. So for each file in files, and then we're going to pull apart 3 different pieces of information. First, we want just the file name itself. So file name equals path.get file name without extension. So this gets just a file name. So Acme bonus file. That's it. Not the path, not the extension. All right. Next, we're going to get the file path, because we'll need to reconstitute this later by combining the path and the new name. So path.get directory name file. And finally, we're going to need file extension. And this is the get extension. This is just the extension. So .txt or .csv. So these are just the extensions for our files. Okay, so let's define what these look like real quick. So just so we have in our mind, file is going to be this full path / acme by acme inc.txt. So that'd be the file. So file name is going to be acme by acme. Inc. It's a file name without extension. Then the file path is going to be just the path itself. That's it. And then the file extension is going to be .txt. That's the extension. Okay, so there's our pieces. We've kind of broken this apart. We've taken this large string that represents everything, the path, the file name, the extension. We've broken it apart into its constituent parts. So we have the file name, we have the file extension, we have the file path. Now, let's start doing some work on it. The first thing I want to do is I want to change this to be title case. And title case allows us to say, title case is to capitalize the first letter of every word. So I'm going to say string new file name equals, and this will be a little bit long, thread dot current thread dot current culture dot text info dot to title case. Okay, so it's going to use our current threads, current culture information to identify the text information we can then say to title case. All right, and we're going to pass in the file name, but we can't just pass in the file name, because if we do that, what's going to happen is anywhere that there's capitalization for the whole word. So, for example, Acme. Acme, right here is all caps. And it's going to think that that's an abbreviation, kind of like FBI or something like that. And so it's not going to turn that into a title case. It's going to leave it all caps. So to fix that problem, we're going to say to lower. So we're going to convert the whole file name to lower and then convert it to title case. So that's one of those tricks to getting this right. Next, what we're going to do, new file name equals new file name dot replace. And we're going to replace Acme with our new Timco. But here's the problem. Let's first do our string comparison dot. Let's do invariant culture ignore case. So no matter what, we're going to ignore the case regardless of culture standards. So that sounds right, but here's the problem. If we do this, then Pacmen, ACME, that's getting replaced with Timco. So it'd be P Timco. And that's not right. So you need to do this. Put a space around both sides and put a space around both sides of Timco. Then it's going to say only if Acme is the entire word. But you may have noticed that's going to cause some problems because that's going to look for a space on both sides of Acme. That's going to work just fine up here with this Acme, the by Acme Inc. There's a space before Acme, there's a space after Acme. Cool. It will not work for the first Acme because the first Acme does not have a space before it. Also, it will not work for this Acme at the end because there's no space after. There's a decimal or a dot after it. So we do have some issues there. We've got to figure out how to take care of those cases as well, those edge cases. Almost literally the beginning and the end. So let's scroll up a little bit here. We're going to say if new file name starts with Acme space, don't forget the space here, and string comparison, ignore the case here. We're going to say new file name equals Timco with a space plus new file name dot substring starting at position 5. So if it starts with Acme, put Timco in a space there, and then put everything at position 5 and beyond in the new file. So it's going to replace Acme at the beginning of the string. So that's part of our solution, but then we have another part of our solution, that's the end of our name. Well, if new file name dot ends with, what does it end with? Space Acme. And ignore the case. So if it ends with Acme, then we're going to say new file name equals new file name dot substring starting at position 0 and saying new file name dot length minus 5. I'm not using the new C#8 code here. Plus space Timco. All right. So that's going to say, okay, if it ends with Acme, or space Acme actually, then we're going to take the new file name up until we get to Acme, cut that part out, and then add on to it space Timco. And that's the new file name. All right. So now we've handled Acme in the middle. We've handled Acme at the beginning. We've handled Acme at the end. And the reason we had to do these with spaces around them is because of Acme being in the middle of words. We don't want that. We also don't want to have the full path when we're doing our replacement, because what if our path was d/acme/challenge/primary challenge files? It would say d/Timco. That's a problem because that's not a path we're expecting. We're expecting to be in the Acme path. We're not changing the path, we're just changing the file name. So you can't have the file path in there as well. Also the extension. There is a very, very slight possibility that the extension is .acme. Well, we don't want to replace that. We want to leave that extension alone. Retain the same extension as it already was. Okay, so that's why we're pulling just a file name without extension and then doing these comparisons this way. So we got the new name, but how do we actually do a rename? It's a little weird. File.move. So the current file, we're going to move to path.combine. And the path.combine is file path. And then new file name plus file extension. Okay, so this path.combine, what it does is it figures out if you need slashes in between and which direction the slash goes and all the rest in order to combine this path with this file name. Now the file name, don't forget, we didn't have an extension on it. We took that off. Therefore, we have to add that back on. Now using plus here, you could use string interpolation, but for just adding putting two strings together, that's probably the easiest way of doing it real quick. Okay? But that should be all we need for the primary challenge. Let's run this. I'm going to put my files up here. And, well, that's a little hard to do, but we'll see if we can. I'm going to pull up real quick because once I start this, here's what I'll do. Console read line at the beginning. That way it's not actually going to do anything until I hit the enter key. All right. So that way we can bring this up here on screen and watch the file names and hit enter. And now they've all changed. So first test file for Timco, Pacmen are people 2, payroll for Timco Corp, test document for testing, Timco bonus file, and Timco by Timco Inc. So it changes the order because of the fact that the names change. So Acme becomes Timco, and so that changes the ordering of the file name. But if we look at our primary challenge here, and we compare that with what we have over here, it looks like all of our documents are exactly the same. Okay, yep, they're all the same. So that means we have successfully completed the primary challenge. Let's go to the bonus challenge and copy this path. And I'll close this window out. And now let's undertake the bonus challenge. I'll leave this in place because there's no reason not to. I will put a console right line here. Wow, not Windows left. Press any key to start. Press the enter key to start. Press enter to start. There we go. But that way you have it, it's documented for you, know what's happening. It doesn't just sit there and you wonder why it's not working. But this will run the primary challenge. You can run it over and over. It's not a big deal. So let's go now to the bonus challenge. And for the bonus challenge, what we're going to do is, let's look at the files here. We're going to open up these files. So file1.txt, let's open it up. And it has top secret data. Don't let anyone know what it is. We're going to take this first line here, top secret data, and that now becomes the file name. So we have top secret data.txt. Retain that extension. Which means this last one here, .csv, if we open this up, let's open this with Notepad. It says this is a CSV file. Even though there's no commas here, it actually is a CSV file because it's just one column, essentially. But it's going to take this line right here. This is a CSV file, .csv. So that's our bonus challenge, is taking the first line of the file and renaming the file with that line. All right, so let's get started on this. Okay, first we're going to grab all of our files. So var bonus files equals directory dot enumerate files again. And this time we're going to enumerate that bonus challenge folder. We're going to do a for each. So for each file in bonus files. Don't get that wrong and do for each file in files, because that file still exists. You don't want to do that again. Make sure it's bonus files. All right, we're going to break this down into a few parts. So up here we did file name, file path, and file extension. I think we want the exact same thing to start off with. I'm going to copy that and paste it. So you have file name, file path, and file extension. We've broken those apart into 3 parts. Now let's get the first line. So string line 1 equals file.read lines for the file, but only read the first line. Control dot to add our using statement here for link. So only read the first line. And with read lines, this in first, this will actually close this out and dispose of this object properly. So it's going to know to just grab the first line and then close and dispose of that file connection. This is a very, very performant way of doing things. It's more performant than trying to read the whole file and then just grabbing the first line. This is going to grab just the first line out of the file, and that's it. All right, so for this, string new full name and path equals path.combine. File path, line 1 plus file extension. That's a lot easier than we thought, right? So what we're doing is we're saying we already have the file path, okay? And actually we don't even need the file name, so we can get rid of that. We have the file path and we have the file extension. So what we need is the file name. Well, instead of pulling it out, we don't care what it was. All we care about is what is it now? And that's the first line of this file. So you grab the first line out, and now you combine those. File path, the first line, plus the file extension. That's the new full name and path. Now we can do our file.move. File and new full name and path. Now the file.move, even though it's in the same directory, it's actually going to rename the file. So it's not going to create a duplicate for us. That's what file.move does. File.copy will create a duplicate for us. We don't want that. We want file.move. Okay? So with this, we now have everything we need. We have in theory, renamed our files with the new file name based upon the first line in that text file. Let's see if it works. I'll pull this onto the screen. Okay, press enter to start. Watch my file names here. Okay, my file names are better test of your system. Notice the extra spaces there. That's intentional. Do not call registry. This is a CSV file, .csv, and top secret data.txt. Let's go back one level, open up the bonus challenge here, and compare. Better test of your system. Do not call registry. This is a CSV file, and top secret data. Those all match and even have the right file types. So that means we have completed the bonus challenge as well. So as you can see, using a little console application, we can rename files and change files very, very easily. It may take a couple times to get it right, to get all the renaming done, but once you've got this application the way you want it, you could do this on millions of files, not just on 3 to 6. Okay? These are very, very common applications that people in businesses do. You have a bunch of files from a server that need to be renamed. Maybe like that Acme example, the company name changes. And so you want to change the name of all the files to reference the new company name versus the old company name. You can do that using a tool like this. Okay? So hopefully you got something out of it. You probably had a couple of false starts. I know I did. But hopefully you picked it up pretty quick and you learned something along the way. All right, thanks for watching. And as always, I am Tim Corey.